Yes.
How is it?
Accustomed to it.
Okay.
Yeah, get accustomed to it. I mean,
It's an easier one to do. You're not going with the traffic,
Yeah.
you're going against it.
well, what was hard is when I got back from the trip, I was that sick guy in the head. I was like falling asleep. It's weird. I'm waking up and like, you don't realize when you go there and be.
That's easy, coming back's a hard adjustment to make. Remember when I went to Germany and came back, flight coming back, it felt like
Yeah. Yes.
going out, doing the night and something.
I try to get that out in the next few days.
For those guys. Yeah.
Somebody that got this already set up.
Going before to Italy was easy. Learning Italian from the channel. Just trying to find podcasts and just
That's awesome.
relaxing on the trip. It was
Very
I took about too much.
That was not good.
And like how it's affecting my
Oh,
college.
boy.
I just need to stop thinking about that. You know what I mean?
No, it really has, the gas has to pull back.
We'll get there.
Uh-huh. That's I'm always thinking of it.
You just gotta,
Just not thinking.
yeah,
No,
you
man,
just gotta keep.
Yeah, right.
It ultimately is cheaper to keep one. on-
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna swap cars with Nick.
I had a Pontiac body for a while. You couldn't kill it, motor man forever. And it's good on gas.
No,
Easy to repair.
so it's gonna be nice and big
Did you?
tonight. Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm gonna walk with Vic. Mine is the nicer car, so I'm gonna go buy another car. She'll drive that, and I'll just drive the other Honda. Right. Yeah. Plus it's better gas now. I'll probably start doing that next week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's, yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like, other than the mileage, it didn't destroy the engine or
Great pumpkin.
any of the
Great
mechanical
pumpkin.
parts.
Pumpkin, Charlie.
Charlie Brown.
Linus is very pumpkin.
Right. Yeah.
The non-sectarian version of.
If you plan on selling it, if you plan on keeping it, then
It's more valuable for you to keep it. You get a car.
yeah, it should be a quick meeting. Patriot fight this weekend. I was gonna ask you guys if you wanted to do something. I mean, you gotta spend some money. It's like $400, but you get the escort veteran down to Washington D.C.
It's a good thing you guys can't vote to vacate the seat of the supervisor. Speaker of the House. Yeah, that's tenuous situation.
Oh yeah,
Well, you're here for the speaker, maybe.
Jordan,
There are a bunch of people pushing Trump.
he's not a member of Congress.
Doesn't have to be.
Really?
Yeah,
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
You could be speaker.
yeah. They could nominate you.
Never heard that ever. That's amazing.
Careful, they might send you up there.
Good news and bad news. Good news is we're vacating the supervisor seat.
Be short a couple years.
No, I think it should be majority.
That's what's
Scalise, I would think.
And if that happens, that will ultimately be better. In the long run.
Jordan would. Whoa, that would be odds.
I got 701.
I do too.
There we go.
We're just waiting for the discussion. I like the process. You ready on this one?
Yep.
Good evening. Welcome to the October 4th meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. For our invocation tonight, I just offer our thanks on behalf of the town of Glenville for the safe return of Charlotte Cena. And I want to take a moment of silence for you to offer your own intentions. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Here.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Here.
Councilman Kirkland?
Here.
Please vote for the record. Councilwoman Burrow is absent. Supervisor Kettler?
Here, thank you for being here today. The agendas are up front. You can see we have a couple resolutions there and then 3 add-ons. The 3 add-on resolutions include appointing Nicholas Shiviani to the position of Zoning Board of Appeals stenographer, authorizing the supervisor to execute a contract with the Bout Road Veterinarian Clinic, and the last one is ending litigation between MFB Glenville and the town of Glenville. Those are the only 3 add-ons, and then we'll go to new business after that and be done with our meeting. So we'll start with, on my left, with town council reports. Councilman Kirkland.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor. There's a lot going on this month right here with the fire departments, and I would just like to make you aware that October 7th, they are going to host a movie night at Scotia Cinema. And what it is a county-wide kind of drive for new recruits because it's been significantly down. So they're looking to motivate people to come out and join the fire department. So October 7th, it's going to be Odd Hours is the name of the movie, and it starts at 2 p.m. It's free at Scotia Cinema. Also, there'll be a bunch of things going on at the firehouses as well. With open house at East Glenville on the 14th. Buchendall will have theirs on October 15th, and finishing with Glenville Hills on the 15th as well, which will be quite interesting for children. They're going to have LifeNet there, which is the helicopters that actually fly people to the hospital when there's an extreme emergency. So if kids want to go out, or adults, and check out LifeNet and see what's going on, I think it'll be quite interesting.
Free popcorn at the movies?
I don't know if they're giving away free popcorn. I don't think so. So if you want to sponsor that, I think they'd be happy.
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
That'll get some people.
That would. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mike, I'll see you come back and listen to the review of the movie. Thank you, Councilman.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. Councilman Martin.
Yeah, just briefly, I attended the staff meeting of the Community Planning and Economic Development Department on Thursday. Things continue to be busy for the department. There's some very interesting projects working their way through the plan review process for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then on the zoning board side, I would like to suggest maybe, Mr. Supervisor, we attempt to meet with the chairman. There was interest on the part of the staff of restoring the provision of staff notes to the board. I think that would be a constructive move for the board members, and it does protect the town on a litigation front to have those notes in the record. So I just like to have a meeting like that and just generally discuss some things over the zoning board. But other than that, things are working well in the department, and that was good to see everybody. So that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Ramachandran.
No
welcome
reports,
back.
Mr. Supervisor. Thank you.
Yes, welcome
Glad
back.
to be back.
Good
Oh,
job.
and I do want to say, the Oktoberfest was wonderful.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Very good time as always, and the food was great.
Excellent. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5 is privilege of the floor. I'll open privilege of the floor. There's nobody signed up for privilege of the floor. Anyone wish to speak at privilege of the floor? Going once. It is open. Going twice. Seeing none. Privilege of the floor is now closed. Move on to supervisors' comments to the board. I'll do a quick report, really just budget focused, since my budget was submitted last Friday. You all have a copy of it, but I'll just go over the highlights of that for folks. You probably all had a chance to read it. The overall tentative budget review for you folks, just to put things in perspective, we're looking at a less than a 1% tax rate increase, so 0.9% tax rate increase, which I want to thank Jason and all the department heads for working so hard to get us there. You know, it was a goal of mine to be at 0. We couldn't get there in the inflationary time that we're in and be responsible at the same time. But we also could have gone a lot further with our tax cap, and we didn't. So we didn't go to rate just our tax cap. We're well below our tax cap. The overall town levy is going to increase by 2%. That cap would have been 4%, I think we had up to 4%. So we did not want to do that just for the sake of doing that. Jason and I and the department heads talked about, you know, being responsible with the budget, but also being very much as close to 0 as possible for our residents, because they need some relief too. But what that means for our residents, ironically, both for our village resident and for our town resident outside the village, it's going to mean about a $6 increase per year on the average house, which is very, very modest based on what this budget was able to achieve. And I'm going to just go through that real quick for you. We're going to have time to talk about this over the next month or so, but just so you kind of have a sense of the overview, we did have to do something that I've been opposed to for past 15 years or so, and that's increase the use of the fund balance. We're going from 385 to 560. That's a reversal of some, a little bit, but it's a reversal of really where we've been over the last 14 years. But really, talking to the comptroller, we're in historic inflationary times, and we're seeing a lot of increases in costs. Salt is one. There's a lot of new federal regulations on salt, paving, a lot of other things going up, gas. We'll talk a little bit about our health insurance, our retirement funding, obviously our contractual obligations, the sick pay, sick leave payouts going out the door. So there's so much going on in this budget that we really felt that you can use your fund balance. Why you should use your fund balance, aside from capital reserves, is also to really smooth out some of those spikes that we're starting to see in new costs. So allocated a little bit more than I'd like. Obviously, I wanted to go the other way with it, but it's responsible to use that fund balance at this juncture and try to smooth out those spikes for our residents as we get through this historic inflation and hopefully back to normal in 2025. We did not use any highway fund balance because we're at our minimum fund balance level right now in highway. We're at the end of our fund balance that we can use. Not that we don't have any fund balance, but we have a policy that we have to maintain a certain amount. And so we really couldn't allocate any fund balance into highway, so that is something in this budget. We do pay down debt additionally by $1.6 million, so that's more debt coming off the books. We do bring in over $900,000 in new debt for Water District 11 expansion into the Business and Technology Park. That's an important project we're doing to bring more economic development into the Business and Technology Park, and so that project is going forward in 2024, and so there will be some new debt on that. But overall, we're eliminating $700,000 in debt, which continues that trend as well. We put in this budget, Jason and I talked a lot about this, $7.5 million for a town hall renovation, including $5.5 million in new debt. That's a placeholder. That this budget doesn't take that debt on yet. but it's a placeholder going into 2024 because that's when the decision we made. So for 2025 is when we'll start to see that. Remembering that we have a significant amount of debt coming off in 2025 and 2026. So this will be a good time. The timing's working out to actually look to replace that as that debt falls off. We also put a placeholder for $5.5 million for water plant improvements that we need to do. That will also be through debt, but we need to make these improvements for a couple reasons. One, to keep up with, the fact that it really hasn't been addressed in the past 20 years or so. But secondly, because of the water that we're selling in Clifton Park and the demand that now we have on our plant, we're going to have to make these upgrades. We're getting revenue from Clifton Park on that. This budget includes $185,000 in new revenue in the water fund. But one of the things this board's going to have to look at in January, and I just want to raise it now, is where we are with our water rates. We haven't raised our water rates in 20 years. 20 years. There's been a lot of cost increase in 20 years. And so we're going to have to look at looking at our water rates at that point. But this budget does contemplate those major capital projects in the next year or two. Notable operating budget highlights, we do include a new position in here, a couple new positions, but the first one is Deputy Commissioner of Public Works for a licensed engineer to come in. It funds it at $85,000. That will replace Dana's position, so that part-time position becomes a full-time deputy position. And that kind of completes our restructuring of the DPW department and brings in someone that would be very helpful to the DPW commissioner moving these projects forward. We're also adding a code enforcement officer at the salary of $52,000 full-time, eliminating the current part-time code enforcement officer, which is vacant. And we're going to add $40,000 in new revenue from the code enforcer because of what we're working on now is bringing electrical inspections in-house. Right now, a third party does that. It's problematic. There's a lot of problems with that. This person's going to have that electrical inspection certificate. And we're working with the Village of Scotia on doing our fire inspections. So we'll be meeting with them and helping us with that as well. So there's really a rework of the codes department, and this budget reflects that as well. We did include $320,000 for retirement sick leave payout. $260,000 of that is with the police department. We have a lot of retirements in line this year, particularly in the police department. I think 5, maybe 6 potentially, but at least I think 5 for sure. So we do have a lot of retirements again this year to deal with. We do continue the SRO program in both school districts. We anticipate in this budget 2.5% increases for CSCA. We're currently in negotiations with Highway and Town Hall. So this does anticipate 2.5% increase for the CSCA units. Hopefully we'll have that done by the end of this month. And then at that point, then that would include non-representatives because non-representatives follow CSCA. So any appointed or any non-reps would then get the 2.5%. What I did do in this budget is I did include raises. It looks a little goofy for electeds at 2.5% because if this budget gets adopted before we enact that, we can't go back on the electeds. Your salaries are set. Everyone's salary is set, and then it can't change again until the next budget's adopted. But we can make mid-year or anytime adjustments to employees and non-reps and representatives. So I thought, it's a big just principle of mine that we need to keep everybody going at the same level and keep everybody getting the same raises, so there isn't this disparity that breaks out within the ranks of all the different positions. So all electeds will be getting the 2.5%. If CSCA gets 3%, let's just say, and the non-reps get 3%, the electeds are stuck with 2.5%. That's just the way it is. So I didn't think that was a big deal, but that's why it looks that way. It's a little goofy. PBA raises will be 2% for officers with less than 10 years and 5% raises for 10 years or more. That's per the PBA contract, which has already been settled. We do include $125,000 for bulk pickup. That's more than we included in the past, but less than what the bid came in last year. We're hoping that the bid comes in more reasonable, but we did bump that up a little bit than in past years. $180,000 in new police cars, 3 of them, new police cars, $50,000 for Yates Mansion, $24,000 for a peer support clinician to be available for the police department. That was a request from the police department, and we thought it was important to, for $24,000 to allow that program to go forward if any of them need a peer support help. $100,000 for water main replacements. This is the first year of a multi-year program. We're going to start replacing our water mains, and we're doing it 1 year, years at a time. So it's a multi-year step. And then lastly, just on some capital, just to give you an idea, it's time to spend the remaining ARPA funds. So this budget contemplates spending those ARPA funds. And there's a variety of places that we have to spend. In community development, I've proposed providing ESAM, which is obviously a great cultural gem of ours here in the town, $88,000 to improve their windows, which they're in the middle of a window replacement project, and also to allow for them to buy ADA compliant AV systems. So people who are either hard of hearing or visually impaired can interact with the programs that are going on and also the exhibits. So there'll be equipment for them for folks with ADA issues. Facilities, there's another whole slew of spending there. We're going to look at a storage building for 18 Glenridge Road and start to build a storage building so we can start getting a hold of our records and storing them properly. Demolition of the History Center. We'll be moving out of the History Center. We have $100,000 in Yates Mansion restoration, $50,000 for a new roof at the Senior Center. We're purchasing new software for our building codes and planning department that feel that it'll be an upgrade in their operations. And of course, I already talked about the town hall facility at $7.5 million. But the other programs I talked about under facilities are all ARPA funded. And then using some ARPA money in highway to buy small fleet. There's 4 basically vehicles to purchase in highway through ARPA funding. And then parks, capital improvements in parks. And most of this will come out of the rec fund, not out of ARPA, but out of the rec fund. As you know, we did solar for parks, so we have some money in there for that. We also have a bond that we haven't spent yet for paving within Indian Meadows. So we're going to finally get the paving done in Indian Meadows and new parking lots, which is about a year behind. There's $200,000 for a new amphitheater and concert shell at Legacy Park, which we're excited about. There's money in here, $50,000 to connect Legacy Park to Sewer District 9. And then another storage building at Indian Meadows Park, $45,000. Our parks employees indicate that we really need some covered storage for some of our equipment. So that would be in there as well. And that's all really out of park funding, rec funding, or capital reserves. Transportation, we have a whole bunch of sidewalk and multipath and pedestrian paths going on all over the town. I won't sit here and go through them all because we've talked about them and they've been on the books a while. But we do have some capital project money that we'll be putting into that. And then lastly, the water system, engineering our upgrades for the water system, both the distribution system and the production plant. And essentially, that is all the projects we have in this budget. There's a lot going on. And so as I started this talk yesterday, it seems, $6 a person, a household. For all of that, I think it's a pretty good budget, pretty strong budget. So you have the budget at your desks or in your mailboxes or at home or wherever it is. We will be putting a public hearing notice out on October 20th. We'll have the public hearing on November 2nd, and we'll have any revisions to the preliminary budget and adoption of the final budget November 16th. So the public hearing is the 2nd, and the adoption is the 16th. And I really don't want to get into anything else because I think that was a long enough report on budget. So any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Okay, so we'll get right back to the agenda. Item number 7, it's a resolution to schedule a public hearing for Wednesday, October 18th regarding assessment roll for Water District number 11 and extensions 10 through 51. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
As you said, Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is to schedule a public hearing to consider objections to the assessment roll for Water District 11 and extension numbers 10 through 51.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 8, to schedule a public hearing on that same night, right here, 18 Glenridge Road, to consider any comments to the assessment roll for Sewer District 9 and extension number 7. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Same thing, Mr. Supervisor. Public hearing scheduled to consider any objections to the assessment roll Sewer District number 9 and extension number 7.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 9, to schedule a public hearing on the same night, same place, to consider any discussion on assessment roll for Sewer District number 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Public hearing again, as you said, Mr. Supervisor, to consider objections to assessment roll Sewer District number 1.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 10, to schedule a public hearing, same date, time, and place, to consider any comments on the assessment roll for Sewer District number 2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
As you just said, public hearing to consider objections to assessment roll for Sewer District number 2.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Good news, we're done with those resolutions. Let's move on to resolution 11.
Wake up, everybody.
I know, authorizing the supervisor of the town of Glenville to execute any necessary documentation. Yeah. No, that's okay. We'll fill it in. Any necessary documentation for court funding under the New York Department of Court Assistance Program. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I think I got Bob.
Bob.
Second, Sid.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Supervisor, this is just a motion for us to apply for some grant money through the New York State Justice Court Assistance Program, and this will enhance our camera system throughout the courts.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 12, approving the minutes of the regular town board meeting held on September 20th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this is just approving the minutes for the meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Abstain. Absent.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. We'll move on to add-ons before new business. Resolution 1, add-on, appointing Nicholas Giovanni to the position of zoning board of appeals stenographer. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is appoints our, I think he's our junior planner or planner. I imagine he attends all the zoning board meetings. He's going to perform the duties of the stenographer for those meetings effective October 4th at a budgeted rate of $100 per meeting. And then we also provide a little bit of a rider, $15 per hour for meetings lasting over 2.5 hours with no additional employee benefits.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
Just want to thank Nick for coming forth and doing this. It's a very important role that's filled there, and it's not very much fun.
Anything else? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Kirkland?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, add-on 2, authorizing supervisor to execute and deliver a contract to Out Road Veterinary for the terms of 1 year to shelter dogs that are seized lawfully by our dog control officer. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. This is just to take some pressure off of the APF and the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society for 1 year to help with dog control.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilman Franklin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hudson,
Yes, resolution passes. Add-on resolution 3, resolution ending litigation between MFB Glenville LLC and the town of Glenville. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Just before we discuss it, just to clarify, MFB Glenville is the shopping plaza right out here where Target and Panera and those shops are along the way, just so you have a sense in case you didn't know that, which property we're talking about. This is a tax cert, as you know, between MFB Glenville and the town of Glenville. Our litigation attorney for tax certs is Vincent Law Firm. They've counseled the town of Glenville along with the assessor that this is in the interest of all parties to end the litigation. This proposed settlement will be for 2022 and 2023 tax cert proceedings, and in which the 2022 and the 2023 assessed values for this parcel I just mentioned will be revised in 2022 from 3.9 million to 3.7 million, and for 2023 from 3.9 million to 3.3 million. Those numbers are rounded up, obviously, from the numbers you see there. This will require MFB to discontinue their discontinuance of the tax cert proceeding, and we do not have, they've waived their right to any refunds for the tax years 2022 or 2023 from the town and fire districts. So there'll be no town or fire district having to pay back anything to those tax certs. So this seems to be the most prudent way to end this matter, and this would allow us to go forward with this behind us. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please close the roll.
Councilman Martin,
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt,
Yes.
Councilman Strickland,
Yes.
Supervisor Hudson,
Yes, resolution passes. Go on to new business. I'll start on my left. Councilman Kirkland.
No new business.
Councilman Martin.
Nothing new.
Councilman Ramichardt.
Nothing new, but I know you're probably going to close out with talking about how wonderful Oktoberfest was. But I just wanted to say, I think next year we're doing so much with our parks and trails that I'd like to, set up a team to work on something similar to the benefits of what Oktoberfest has done, a little bit more on the activity side for something along those lines.
Great. Thank you. And all I have is, yes, I did want to take a moment to talk about how great Oktoberfest was yet again. I want to thank Vicki and Dave and the entire committee, all the employees, volunteers, sponsors, vendors. I mean, so much comes together to make that happen. I firmly believe, I haven't heard official numbers or anything, but I firmly believe it was probably one of the record-breaking years. It was just packed.
we don't have to wrap it down, so, yeah.
No, so I don't know for sure. So then there's nothing that would challenge my assessment that this was a record-breaking year.
I have to say, I was waiting in line at the German American Club to have my annual dinner, and the group behind me was speaking German. They had come over from Germany to come to the Glenville Oktoberfest.
They say they liked it?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
they hadn't had the food yet, obviously, but
Now, I'm not sure they
actual
came-
German people at
I'm
our.
not sure they
October-
came for the fest, or they just happened to be here and cleared the dust away.
I'm going to go with that they came here for the festival. I'm leaving it at that.
Because nothing challenges that. Right?
But
it
it
was
was
wonderful.
actually, yeah, they were.
And we again won second year in a row, best regional festival or some title like that from the Daily Gazette. So that's always nice. And it's just something for our town to be proud of. It's living up to the vision that we had for it. Actually, 17 years ago, I think, Sid, you were first among that group. I came on with that as what I wanted to do, and the town board at the time said, absolutely not. And we had to wait till we got the team in place 2 years later to get it
And
done.
we made it happen.
So that's great, and it's living up to it, and I really do appreciate it when you work on it.
I can remember when he used to be over at the airport,
Yep.
it's a much smaller venue.
And the only other thing I just wanted to point out to folks is I will be hosting a employee budget forum, which is something new tomorrow. We'll be closing the town hall from 11:30 to 12:30, so I can present the executive budget to the employees. There was a lot of questions and a lot of just thoughts about the budget, and folks couldn't come to the meeting. We had it here, that forum we had here. I fell ill and had to cancel the one at the senior center that evening, so they couldn't go to that one. So this is kind of just, we're going to have a little lunch budget presentation for them, get their thoughts and ideas on it, and I just think it's a good thing to do. But I just wanted to let you all know that if you're in the area.
What day was that
It's
again?
tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
11:30 to 12:30. And it's just going to be kind of our budget presentation for the employees. And I think it's important because a lot of employees have a lot of questions. And we have so much going on in the town, particularly next year in the budget. I think it's nice for everyone just to have an idea of what the vision is. So that should be nice. And that's all I have. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I will move that.
And a second.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. And 8 to 7:30. Well, not according to some clock. According to that clock.
7:30.